Pero ella deja todo preparado.
Hello.
No ¿qué onda?
Y hacer participe.
What's the next offer?
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Ted Pierce, and it is a privilege and an honor for Rolling Hills Church to host this celebration of life. I first met Ty over 6 years ago when Temple Israel was looking for a space to worship. And with the leadership of Rabbi and your board, I met Ty. What a joy. What an individual. And the staff have fallen in love with Rabbi, with Ty and your leadership. And so today as we gather, I think it's a symbol of the way faith should be. I think it's a symbol of the way Ty believed, that people who believe in God should be neighbors and treat each other with respect and love. So again, it is truly an honor as a senior pastor of Rolling Hills to be a part of this service, to welcome everyone, and to hold hands together as we celebrate a life well lived.
Hi, I am Rabbi Jacques Cukierkorn. Also, you must know me. And yet, this perhaps may be the hardest service I'll ever do, because it's easy to be the rabbi, to do the professional job. It's much harder to be officiating, participate in a service for a true good friend. Ty was. He was much more than a friend, he was a brother. He was loyal to an nth degree, right? Always present and helpful. Not that I always agreed with Ty on everything. And Anita told me, make it funny, because I have a few funny remarks to make, not all of them. Probably the ones I'll make will already get in trouble when I get home. They need to tell me, why do you mention that? But, I will just start with the concept that he made me sin. And even a grievous sin. Because when I met him at his conversion, when he was converting to Judaism. That was, I'd say, 12 years ago. And at that time, he was a member of another congregation. And I fell in love with a guy who was just me 20 years later, wore moccasins. They were exactly the same kind of narrow shoes and the same kind of shirts. And he had a different taste in pants. Can't blame the guy. Nobody has great taste. And he caused me to covet somebody else's congregant, which is a really bad thing. I went to his spiritual leader and the silver shirt and say, I like the Hampshire. I'll trade you for 2 congregants, and choose any 2 you want. But well, he came for free. And he was again incredible sense of humor. Perhaps he would appreciate the next remark I will make. Which some of you might not, and that's no problem, because I would have liked it. I have many, many stories about Ty, especially, and it relates to butts, which is, I would butt call him all the time. I don't know, all the time. When the phone turned on and it called, somebody was always Ty. Why? Maybe it was late, I mean, because our hearts and our butts were connected. And for a guy that was, what shall I say, white, I could say that he was a man with no butt. Not the B-U-T-T, but the other one, B-U-T. The saddest word in the English language is butt. Is what you say, Anita's a great human being. And then you say, but nothing good is going to ever come out of that, right? No good comes after but. And Ty is one of these rare people, if you're here because you know him, that there is no but about him. You can say Ty was nice, but there's no but. He was totally wonderful human being. Again, reliable, present. I mean, Denise and I, we think about him every day when we're having the sede. I end up having cut the chickens for the Passover sede. But the moment you would walk in, you say, young lady, where are my chickens to cut? He's always present, and think of him daily. He was always present, always helpful. He caring, loyal, and as the rabbi, back when my role was rabbi of the temple Israel, I'll tell you that he definitely saved the temple. He came in at the very, Ty and Anita came in at the very, very beginning, and we were having a major crisis, and Ty came in and took over, became, I think, the longest president on our short history, which just celebrated 10 years. It was wonderful. And, he took over. I don't think the temple would exist today if it wasn't for Ty and Anita Hampshire. Pretty soon I'll be inviting several people, friends, relatives, to talk about Ty. They'll be sharing some thoughts from this pulpit, please. A man who again lived a life that we definitely should mirror ourselves on and try to emulate by, again, I guess this is not the place to have a lengthy debate about what happened after you die, what happened with the soul, do you live on? For sure, you live on the people you impact, and on the impression you leave them, and on the example you leave. And the example that Ty left couldn't be any better. Death has taken our beloved time. Our friends grieve in the darkened world. Their silence as lamentation, their tears as long limits. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Ty's love that united us in life, in which death cannot sever. For his companionship, that we shared along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all this and more, we give our thanks to God. This time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever new message of God's nearness. It tells us our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joys and sorrow, in life as in death. For generations, our people has derived solace from the 23rd Psalm. We'll recite it now first in Hebrew, then invite you to join me in the English. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, v'nvodeseh v'tzeini, amnei menuchot yenachaleni, nafshi yisober, ינכני ובגן לי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלך בגיא צלמוות לא אירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפניי שובך נגד צורריי, ישנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, כתוב בחסד יעטפוני כל ימי חיי, ישבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. In English now, to join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight path for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In his sorrow, Job cried out, God has given, God has taken away, blessed be the name of God. Ancient people were well acquainted with grief in the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, God, you have given, you gave us Ty, a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in Ty's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge our sovereignty and love, as we now say, blessed be the name of God now and forever. Let's pray for a moment in silence. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I'll be inviting now a few people to share some words of love about time. First one will be his companion, his partner in crime, everyday life, in and out, every time you look around, she's there. So saying,
He was someone who brought happiness to everyone he met. The world was a better place somehow, wherever he went. From the moment I spoke to Ty, we belonged to each other. There was never anyone else. He was my lover, my best friend, my advisor, my protector, my rock, and my happiness. He was loving and generous. 24 years we were together, and they were the happiest years of my life. We talked to each other, we believed in communication, and we did argue, as all couples do. It never lasted long. It always ended with a kiss and a hug and laughter. Sometimes we required rabbinical intervention. So if you ever need an arbitrator, call Jacques. I will miss him until we meet again in heaven. To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated. But to the happy, I have my peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon the shore, gazing at a beautiful sea, remember me. As you look in awe at a mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never be gone. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, always missed, and buried together. Thank you all for coming.
Next, I will invite Dr. Jonathan Twyman.
Where's Margie? Oh, there she is.
Talk about hard acts to follow. Can't do that. I just wanted to, first of all, thank Ty for giving our temple what it is. It wouldn't have existed without him. He was our first genuine president because people have a way of making a mess of everything, and he had a way of calming things down and making it work. I appreciate it. I also wanted to say that Ty was my favorite Republican. And it is such a credit to him that he lived in such harmony with Anita, who I know deep down was just far, far more on the other side than she would ever admit, but she was. But so I, of course, would side with her on that. On the other hand, when Anita would, in our board meetings over the years, get a little bit out of this world with plans for, the Messiah, if nothing less. Ty had a way of calming her down, which was absolutely necessary. I do appreciate that for sure. Ty was a lot for us, and one of the specific things, and I'm pledging to do that, to carry on for his wishes. He was the one who really wanted us to get the Torah back into our congregational worship, and even got Jacques to swear at least once a month he was come out and walk around and they could read from it. And it's something I like too, and I promise we're going to push that as well. So the temple is going to thrive through the things that he started and continue. And I thank him very much for what he did and the spirit in which he did it. Thanks, John. Thank you, John. Right now, Tracy Weeks is a family friend for a very, very long time.
Good afternoon. It's kind of hard. I met Ty when my oldest son, who's now 21, was 6 years old. I was a single mother to 3 small children, and trying to raise 3 kids on your own is hard. And Ty stepped in and was like a grandfather to those kids. And he taught me so much. He taught my children what it was like to have a good male role model in their lives. And I think more than anything, he taught me how a woman was supposed to be treated. The respect that she deserves, the honor that she deserves, and what she should expect in life. He was a wonderful friend to me, and more than anything, he treated me like a daughter. I called him Dad. I called him Mom. They mean the world to me. He would have wanted me to tell a funny story. So I did, so I got one. And then of course Anita would want something funny from us too. So a lot of the things that we did together were in scouting. And the first year that I spent down at scout camp, Ty and I did a lot of walking together. And that was the year that I joined the tribe of sede. And we were told that we had to pick a name, something that meant a lot to us, that was representative of us. So the name that I picked is actually representative of both of the 2 important men in my life, my own biological father and then my adopted father, Ty. So my own father called me his little rose when I was growing up. My birthstone was a sapphire, so I was born in September. And Ty managed to get us lost on the reservation. It was funny, we spent, 2 or 3 hours wandering the reservation trying to get back to camp. Managed that. So my Mickasay name ended up being Wandering Sapphire Rose. Tribute to both of the important men in my life. So that will always live on as a tribute to him. But I also, we have some other dear friends who had intended to be here today to speak. They left me with a letter that they wanted me to read. And it says, in scouting, we always talk about how important the program is, but we also say that family comes first. Today, family comes first as we are attending a funeral for Alan's sister-in-law in Arkansas. We wish we could be here today as we had planned to honor and pay our respects to Ty. We first met Ty as Cub Scout leaders. He was shepherding his nephew Michael through the program. As we got to know Ty, we came to know his support to his family and the scouting program. Ty became a member of the leader training team for Cub Scout leaders at home in Independence and in Blue Springs. Ty was the consummate professional as a volunteer on the training team. He was always prepared for his part of the training, always had advice based on his personal experience to offer to those new leaders attending his presentations. His concern for their continued success was genuine and very evident. As Michael aged through the program, we didn't see Ty as often, but still met him for various scouting functions and the occasional non-scouting function. It was always good to get back with a good friend and pick up where our last meeting left off, as if no time had passed. When Ty's health took a turn for the worse, it made it harder to get together, and over the past year, it was nearly impossible. However, we still followed his health and his well-being through Tracy. Losing him was a surprise and a shock to us all. We are proud to call Ty a friend and will miss him dearly. We hope to get back together at that next big camp out with our friend in heaven. Until then, carry on, my brother. All is well. Love out and journey.
Next, I want to invite Mark 6, as I call her. Right, perhaps one of the best examples I have seen of fraternal love, the one you guys had going on.
like to thank everybody for coming to celebrate Ty's life as my only older brother, and who I had all my life. I'd like to share some early memories of him, as you all knew him later. As mother was a French war bride, having met our father, named Lance Driver in the army in Paris during World War II, we were all proud of her heritage. She brought many of her traditions to this country when she came stateside alone in 1947. Daddy gladly adopted those traditions, and we were raised American with French Catholic roots. One very important tradition was the naming of the children, and honor grandparents and family names were picked from those family members. Mother named me Marguerite in honor of her mother, and Cecilia in honor of Daddy's mother. Twyman was named Twyman in honor of our father, and Pierre in honor of mother's brother, whom she would not see again for over 30 years. As a child, Jean-Pierre was called by a nickname, Pierrot, and mother used to say for Twyman. Pierre in French is translated as rock. Twyman was not only my big brother, he was also my rock. For all the sibling rivalry we suffered as children, we were always there for each other. I often tell the stories of our mother's father, Grandpère René, who I compare to our Indiana Jones, because of his adventures in Africa. Grandpère and Grandmère spent much of their life after World War I in the Belgian Congo. Grandpère was captain of a banana boat and kept his family with him. He would intrigue me with stories of their life on the river. He was an adventurer and charmer, and Twyman inherited those traits from him. Grandmère and Grandpère René arrived stateside in Houston, Texas, February 5th, 1951, aboard the Light Swan. Then they went to Mexico City, Mexico, and with the help of Richard Bowling, a member of the U.S. Congressional House of Representatives, they were permitted to move to Kansas City and begin application for American citizenship. Mother became a citizen September 13, 1949. Grandmère and Grandpère received their citizenship in 1956. They were all three the proudest Americans and never failed to remind Twyman and myself how lucky we were to be born here. I was the realist and Twyman was the eternally optimistic charmer. He always had a smile and a laugh no matter the situation. I was the Debbie Downer who never won anything. I filled out a dozen entries at the MP for their contest, and he would only enter once. He won enough Lionel train sets from the MP to fill our basement with track and train, and he used them to make the down payment on his first car. He would go fishing and catch everything as I caught a pole. I did outdo him one trip when I was at the right spot. We'd been catfishing and caught several dozen when the gentleman next to me was so exasperated that kids were out fishing him. He turned to me and handed me his whole rig and tackle box and left. I was so excited, and Daddy didn't even make me share with one. We went home and cleaned 48 fish to fry. Our grandparents rented a small house, and Grandpère went to work at Movimento. I would spend every Friday and Saturday night at their house, and I would be shipped to Daddy's mother in Illinois for the first week of September to the week before school started. Twyman totally convinced me that I was adopted, and that's why he got to stay home and I was not allowed. Actually, the one time he did get to go to Illinois, it only lasted 2 weeks, and Grandma Downs called Daddy to come get him. He'd take off on his bike and go to town when he wanted, and the last straw was stepping on a rake at the neighbors and eating a tetanus shot. He just wasn't as easily controlled as I was. That was something that never changed in his life, and I could pull that chain on him a lot. We were in parallel for getting in trouble. One day after school, we probably did more him than me, decided to practice our casting in the front yard. The only thing he caught was the kid down the street in the cheek. We were not using a practice squad. We were using the real hook, line, and sinker. That was a good one, a good tail forming. Not nearly as good as the time we wanted to try smoking. Latchkey kids get bored after school. Anyway, we heard the car in the drive and knew we were in really hot water. Mother had gotten ill at work and come home early. We quickly ditched the ashtray and lit cigarettes in the trash and the sink. Big mistake. Not only did Mother smell the cigarettes, but the smoke pouring out from under the seat where the trash had caught fire was even more alarming. She didn't even have to tell us to go to our rooms, we just did. Unfortunately for Twyman, she started with him, and in those days, beltings were allowed. Unfortunately, she missed his bottom, hit the floor, broke her belt. It so enraged her, she went to her room. In retrospect, it was a frightful tale, but we did all laugh about it later in life, and neither of us smoked again until as teenagers. We did find other ways to entertain ourselves, and one weekend, Mother and Daddy had agreed we could have a party that Saturday. I don't even recall the occasion, but I do know I dubbed him a new nickname. We decided to paint the garage for the party. Daddy finished it in a surplus plywood that was a hideous dark blue. We didn't have any money for paint, so we took all the leftover cans we found in the garage and mixed a hideous bright lime green. We both began painting. It was going fairly well until his girlfriend called. 2 hours later, I was fed up with doing all the work, so I started painting in bright green on the hideous dark blue twinkle toes. When he finally got off the phone and came out to see if I had finished, only to find his name everywhere. Well, let's just say it didn't take long for him to finish painting that garage. He and Daddy were very active in Scouts. From Cubs to Explorer, I enjoyed many of his merit badges on his road to Eagle. He did the Indian beadwork and made some beautiful pieces. Daddy made a headdress for one of the Order of the Arrow functions. We did the photography merit badge, and Daddy set up a darkroom in the garage. We had so much fun with double and overexposure. And I'd like to open the door when he was in there. I guess that was why Scouting was such a tradition in our family. I was the den mother for Cub Scouts and a committee chair for our troop in Florida. Twyman and Daddy celebrated the 50th anniversary of Scouting. Brad and Larry celebrated the 75th anniversary of Scouting, and our son and grandson, Brad and Brandon, celebrated the 100th anniversary of Scouting. It's a long tradition in our family. Twyman continued the tradition too with Anita's nephew, Michael, taking him to Eagle Scout. It's something we're all really proud of. Another is our military service. Grandpère René served in the Belgian military in World War I. He served in the French resistance in World War II and smuggled many Jews to freedom. Grandmère would tell me how afraid she was for Mother when she went to Catholic school in Paris. The Jews would be hidden during the day and moved on at night. She was so terrified the Nazis would find them. Living in occupied Paris was terrifying. Mother and Daddy never shared their stories with us as we were growing up. We only knew Daddy was an ambulance driver in Paris and met Mother at the Red Cross, where she volunteered. But later, time Anita did get tales of Mother's life and their occupation through Clarence. With all our growing up, the hardest times were Mother and Daddy's divorce and our move to Joplin, Missouri. Those really threw Ty into a tailspin. We bonded and supported each other through both and became stronger for it. To the point that when we started at Joplin High, he actually began to look out for me. By the time we got to junior college, we weren't double dating, but we were good friends with our boyfriends and girlfriends. He even felt the need to take on Larry and give him the big brother speech about not hurting his little sis, or there would be consequences. Well, Larry and I were married a short 8 days before he left for his first tour in Vietnam. We stayed with Daddy a couple of nights and slept in Ty's room. The first morning, Ty came to the door and slammed it with both open palms, yelling, "Get up, sleepyheads," at the top of his lungs. Well, Larry jerked the door open, stood at his full height, and as he looked down on Ty, Twyman melted into the carpet and slipped away. It was almost as precious as the Ty called him a walk at school one day. Sometimes his brain just ran away with him. But when Larry left for his second tour in Vietnam, 11 days before our daughter was born, that big brother was a godsend. Ty would come by every day and check on how I was feeling and was everything okay with me. When I finally went to the hospital to deliver, he was right there. When I woke up from delivery, I could hear him telling me in the hospital, "You have a beautiful baby girl, sis. She's beautiful." The nurses came in and were explaining about what a loving husband I had. He stayed through the whole delivery. I informed him my husband was on the ship in the Gulf of Tonkin, and that was my brother. He was right there for me in Mary's place. But so too, when he needed his first bypass surgery, I needed to go with him and Anita to Columbia to be there for them. Through the years and his medical condition, it's been important for us to be there for each other. When I needed eye surgery, he was on the phone with Larry. The last 30 years being in the Ozarks together has been full of many good times. When he lived with Larry and I, when he and Ann were going through their divorce, when he would be in the area selling card service and stay with us a day or two, when we would go to the lake, when he could come mow our yard for our 4th of July blow. When he and his family came down to Tampa to go to Disney World with Daddy, I made him paint the inside of my house, and they did. When we went to the beach and I stayed in the van to avoid the race of the car in a storm, as I watched the kids playing in the water and saw fins, I raced to the beach yelling to grab Jason, his youngest, and get him out of the water. Sharks, sharks. I cleared the beach, only to be informed by the lifeguards that porpoises go down in the water like this, and sharks go like that. Well, these were dolphins porpoising in the water. When we would come home on leave, he would make a point to see us. My mother passed away when we were both devastated, but we were there for each other. I wouldn't have been able to help Clarence half as much as I did without Tom and his help. When I would call to have them take him here or there, or wish I could come, and they would come across town to help me, or just to be there for us. My consolation at this time is knowing he's hugging Mother right now, even if he is arguing with Clarence. He will always be in our heart, and I've always got a priceless, precious memory to make my heart smile. I want to thank all of you for sharing these memories and helping me honor the best brother I have. I love you, Twyman. Thank you for coming.
Whereas I had the children we have made and belong dearly for Jason and Jennifer. Jennifer particularly cannot deny the father. She's a good-looking female version of Ty, that's many times. I also had so much love to go around. If you pick up around many other people's babies to make them as if they were his children. And he took it truly to heart, I think. Because he'll be your father for good and for bad. Do not hesitate to chastise people in front of, to me and in front of them. Sometimes I have to tell him to lay low. But also certainly was proud and to brag about the accomplishment of his adopted clan. And I'm going to invite Michael to share a few words. Source of both of the ones I mentioned before.
Well, I think we can all agree that when you die, you can't take anything with you, so it's about what you leave behind. And what none of us will escape is Uncle Ty's one-liners. I think we'll all be saying, "Come back and see us," you know, every moment that we think of them. For everybody here, I think even those that just knew when you would visit, there's a big void left because, like everybody's been saying, you rarely shared an experience with Ty where you weren't left smiling afterwards. Smiling was really important to him. He once told me, even when talking on the phone, to carry a smile inside of you. Happiness was really important to him, and I feel that he was the personification of the word love. And that was through his tolerance of people, of different modes of thought, of race, ethics. It didn't matter. He had love for everybody everywhere that he went, and understanding. Unless you put the plates in the front of the dishwasher first. That he could never understand. Why you would live your life that way. Why would you do that? But for pretty much everything else, he had a heart that I could never compete to fill the size of. And in his last moments, the thing that I told him, one of the only things I could put together to say was that there are no goodbyes for me with him. I don't know if that's because of how much he taught me to have faith. But I told him that everywhere I go, he'll be with me. And I don't mean that just as a thing to say. I literally can see him crying right now, sitting here with us. I can hear him laughing when Aunt Margie was telling her stories. I can hear it, it's so clear because his presence really was something that stays with you. And I think a lot of people, shared what we all feel, and so I don't want to drag it on too long, but in the last few months that I got to spend time with him, he got to listen to some of the music that I was starting to write, and he said something that really made me feel good, which was that it brought him peace, and that it was music that was positive, music that was full of joy. And none of us get to choose how we leave this place. And I could hardly believe that the way that he went is how he would wish to go. But I hope that by sharing this music that he enjoyed, to me it sounds like the way I would wish to send him off. So it's pretty short, and I'll just play a little. Oh, it's really hard to get through that feeling with him, so I'll just leave it at that. He liked things.
Thank you, Michael. One thing was very important in Ty's life, the Boy Scouts. And I know there's going to be somebody sleeping on the cap of the Boy Scouts. I hope.
I'm not sure.
Something Reverend Pierce told me, we need to have everything arranged in advance. What about, oh, just know that I really, really, really cared about being a Boy Scout. Even though he was a Jew, I think he worshipped Adam Power. And then I think we had also somebody coming on behalf of the Navy. Well, he did serve in the Navy, it was very important. You should know that the freedom we enjoy definitely is part owed to the wonderful service Ty certainly paid a very high personal price for it. And, especially, well, thus, we will then continue. We begin to conclude the service. There's a poem I believe is very appropriate for a service on memory like this one by Alvin Fine. It says, birth is a beginning and death. I just want to say one more thing before I go on. They're sitting there and listening to all of you speak. Anita, John, Margie, Michael, Tracy. I was reminded of words of a very famous rabbi, Abraham ibn Ezra, who lived 1200, 1300 years ago in Cairo, Fusta, Cairo. He said, words that come from the heart get to the heart. And indeed, each one of you who spoke today made that saying true. I want to thank you. I know that I would have been very grateful, and indeed would be crying. No doubt. Now I continue with words of Alvin Fines. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. It's good to know that the American Air Forces may be delayed, but they never fail. We have the Navy people here. Stop.
United States Navy, and grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of appreciation for your loved ones' faithful and honorable service.
Before we begin concluding the service, earlier late almost answer the summons to return to the source of being, for we lose our hold on life when our time has come, as the leaf falls from the bowl when its day is done. The deeds of the righteous enriches all, as the fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath. The dust returns to the earth, the spirit lives on with God. Like the stars by day, our beloved dead are not seen by mortal eyes. They shine on forever. Theirs is eternal peace. Let us be thankful for the companionship that continues in a love stronger than death. Sanctify in the name of God, we honor the memory of Twyman, Pierre, Hampshire. Please rise, and I will recite traditional Jewish morning prayer of the college. Itkadal ve'itkadash shemei Rabbahu, ve'almad v'yibrachi v'tei ve'amlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman ka'im v'imru amen. Osei shalom, yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei amayah. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שני לקודשה בריחו לאמה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה Damiram Belma, Lindru, Amém. Yehei Shlama Rabba Mishemaya, Chaim Aleinu Vel Kol Israel, Lindru, Amém. Osei Shalom Ibrahim, Uya Se Shalom Aleinu Vel Kol Israel, Lindru, Amém. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved among us. I want again to thank the presence of you all here. I want to thank those who participated in sharing some words about time. I want to particularly thank my friend Reverend Pierce and Rolling Hills Church for making it all possible. And as we leave this place, let us leave remembering this wonderful, wonderful man. And if we keep the values that we all know and that we want to discuss here today with us, reflect them in our lives, then Ty will live through each and one of us every day. I want to invite now the immediate family to exit first, and then due to COVID, I think the best way we should do it is we should exit by row, please, to avoid congregating. Just when you see the people on the road before you, cross the outside door, then you go. That way you don't congregate. Okay, so just invite them to exit first. Right, and then you can greet them in the outside.